The 2026 ACC football schedules have been revealed, and here's a date to circle. On November 14th, the Duke Blue Devils will visit the Miami Hurricanes.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And why circle November 14th, might I ask? Well, there's a pretty good chance Darian Mensah will be wearing orange and green come November 14th. Before that, certainly, you got the Manny Diaz factor coming back to Miami again, and you've got the defending ACC champs against the team that had the longest playoff run in the ACC. We got full schedules to break down. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On ACC your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. He is Kenton Gibbs, co-host of Locked On Wolfpack and former NC State defensive lineman. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes, and on this loaded episode, we'll talk about the ACC moving their football championship game out of prime time for the first time and why they're moving to noon this coming December. We'll talk about that Miami versus Duke showdown with all the ACC football schedules coming out. All right, so Kenton, we look at this. It's beautiful. I'm glad the ACC put out this graphic. And for those listening, we'll go through it because it gives you every ACC football team and all of their opponents. The ones highlighted in gray are road games. The ones in white are home games for all these teams. Remember, you've got 12 ACC teams playing a 9-game conference schedule this year, which leaves 5 that are playing still an 8-game conference schedule. But KG, let's start with November 14th at Hard Rock Stadium. The Duke Blue Devils, who are currently suing their former starting quarterback for, breaching his 2-year NIL contract. Darian Mensah is likely to end up at Miami whenever that legal saga is over, probably sometime this week or maybe even tonight. And, Duke, Kenton, last year played a game against Tulane after taking Darian Mensah from Tulane, and now they'll play against Miami, who's likely to take their quarterback. How's that for a storyline?
Well, it's so interesting because we can't call it the Darian Mensah Bowl because that's Tulane versus Duke, which, by the way, is happening again this year.
Yeah.
Tulane and Duke, week 1 is happening again. So we've got to trademark this one as the Manny Diaz Bowl. This is what we're going to call this one. We obviously know Manny Diaz's ties as the former head coach of Miami. And, boy, this is going to be an interesting time, Darian Mensah is that type of guy, and by the way, this is a joke. Please don't take it personally, anybody. Darian Mensah is that type of guy that's always talking or tweeting about the ex. Like, oh, yeah, they were just the worst person ever. Oh, yeah, don't you hate when a girl snores? It is that type of thing because this is the second year in a row where Mensah will likely be playing his old team. How that truly tells us something about the state of college football today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Second year in a row where a guy's going to be playing his former team. And by the way, this is his 3rd year in college football.
That's a great point.
It's such an interesting time that we're in as college football fans. But that game's going to have a ton of intrigue, and it's going to have a ton of stuff on it because, Duke fans are screaming at Miami fans, aha, Manny Diaz won a championship before ACC Championship before Miami or Mario Cristobal. Miami fans are screaming back, we went to a national championship. Y'all are irrelevant. That game is where it's going to be some bad blood. It's going to be some animosity. It's going to get lined up and settled on the 50. Because, Donald, you know me. I'm a guy who loves when teams with bad blood line it up. So I will be seated. I will be sat. I will be staring intently at my TV screen on the 14th.
Yeah, so at the time that we're recording this, it's not official yet, but Darian Mensah and Duke are working behind the scenes on a probable settlement so they can settle it outside the courts. If it doesn't get settled outside the courts, they've got another hearing coming up on Thursday, January 29th. But The expectation is Mensah's going to end up in Miami. I think the question is, how much is it going to cost? I think that's the question, right? So for the quarterback matchup, Kenton, for that game, we're going to pencil in Darian Mensah as Miami's starting quarterback. And then on the Duke side, we're now going to pencil in, we might even put this in pen now because he signed with Duke, Walker Egat, former San Jose State quarterback who, Duke was able to snatch him up with all the uncertainty surrounding Mensah. He is their projected starting quarterback. I'm not going to claim I watched a whole lot of Walker Egat last year, Kenton, but I do know he threw for over 3,000 yards, had a very good season, which is why he's, moving up to the Power 4 level. So, on paper, you'd probably, though, safe to say you would take Darian Mensah in that matchup against Walker Egat.
Hey, Duke fans, you'll always have that ACC championship, huh?
Yeah.
You'll always have that. Nobody can take that away from you. You're allegedly a basketball school. Not allegedly. We all know you are. But you're allegedly a basketball school that has an ACC championship in football. Nobody can take that away from you. But I doubt that Egat has the goods to take this team to those levels because it's a very different scenario in terms of how highly touted these players were, how widely courted they were. When Darian Mensah announced that he was hitting the portal, it was like everybody and their mom was, oh, man, I hope he's coming to my school. I hope he's coming to my school. Oh, I heard he's visiting here. I have not heard a little Bo Peep about Egat. And that's with all due respect, And I'm not saying that to say, oh, well, how much people talk about you matters a lot. And a lot of people will say Fernando Mendoza wasn't the most talked about quarterback in last year's portal, to which I would say yes, but he was still one of the more talked about quarterbacks.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
People still, even though people may not have talked about him in the way that we would think, plenty of people said he was an idiot for going to Indiana. Everybody and their mama said, oh, my God, he's going to go throw RPOs all day for a living. And I guess being RPO man worked out for him pretty well. But people wanted to say something about it. It's much quieter. It's much more of a whimper than a bang. But again, the headlines don't win you football games. So I hope everything works out for Duke. I enjoy it when ACC teams are good in general. But obviously, like you said, if you're asking me Mensah or Egat, it's not close. I'm not going to think twice about that. That's not something that I got to get the little Jeopardy buzzer out for. The do. You don't need that. You don't need that. Give me Mensah every day and twice on Saturdays.
Well, I want to keep breaking down these schedules when we come back. We want to look at, we'll take a closer look at Duke's entire schedule, Miami's, Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, NC State. By the way, I'm going to tap out here because Kenton Gibbs keeps taking players from Miami. I mean, every time I check on the latest portal updates, there's another former Miami Hurricane going to NC State. There's 3 of them that have signed with NC State. Now, I like all 3 of them, but Raul Popo Aguirre, that's the one I'm going to miss most. So we'll talk about that, but we'll continue to break down the ACC football schedules right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, it is the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. Guys, I usually fill out like 20 separate bets for the Super Bowl. I'm going to be doing that on FanDuel. It's the perfect way to cap off this season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. And folks, make sure if you're an everydayer, you make it official by joining the Everydayer Club. You get discounts on the exclusive Locked On merch store. You get exclusive Discord access. You get ad-free versions of the shows and so much more. Make it official your everydayer status by visiting lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer today. You can add Locked On ACC, Locked On Wolfpack, Locked On Canes, or all of your other favorite shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, so Kenton, let's take a look again at this magical schedule grid. All right, so let Duke come in as defending ACC champs. They include week 0 on here. Duke does not have a week 0. They host Tulane week 1, the Mensah Bowl. They play and Tulane beat them last year. Then they play Illinois, who beat Duke last year. Duke had 5 turnovers in that game. And then they're home against Stanford, home against William and Mary. Then the bye week, then at Georgia Tech. That won't be easy. Home against North Carolina. Who knows what UNC is going to look like this year? It's one of life's great mysteries. They play at Virginia in an ACC Championship game rematch. Home against Boston College, at your NC State Wolfpack, at Miami, as we talked about, home against Clemson, and at Wake Forest. How do you feel about that schedule? I think there's a few landmines in there for Duke.
Oh, a few landmines is an understatement, but also this is one of the more intriguing schedules of the year because you really don't know where to place a lot of these games, right? Most teams you look at, if you're a conference championship if you're a conference champion rather, in a Power 4 conference, and you start off the season with a team that is group of 5 and with a new head coach, 9 times out of 10, you say, oh yeah, pencil that for a win. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. And then you're going up to Champaign, Illinois. That's never an easy place to play. Stanford, they're Stanford. They're finding it. William and Mary, that should be pretty easy. Georgia Tech, another wild card. You talk about what is UNC going to look like. What is Georgia Tech going to look like? We all trust that Key is a metric ton better of a coach than Belichick. But at this point, of course, don't want to disrespect Bill Belichick's past, but right now, today, Key is 1,000 times the coach Belichick is. That's just a fact. Yeah. And so you think that they're going to be good, but who's going to be your quarterback? Who are you bringing back that's going to be meaningful to that squad? And, of course, UNC is a big rivalry for the victory bell there. And then the ACC Championship rematch. Who is Virginia? Who are they going to be? So now you ask yourself that about 2 teams. And, of course, we'll skip over Boston College as a free space with all due respect. NC State.
Yeah, fair.
NC State, Duke has had their number for the past few years. Now we to the Manny Diaz Bowl. And you notice how none of these games, except William and Mary and Boston College so far, have been, go ahead, pencil that in as a win. And Stanford. I'll give you Stanford too. Those are 3 games that I can say, yeah, pencil that in. You should be all right. Other than that, you're headed towards the end of the season here, and you've got 3 games that you would feel good about. Oh, and your last 3, Miami, Clemson, and then 8-win Wake Forest. Yeah. That should be pretty easy. This is a very tough schedule for Duke. It's probably sneaky tough, though. When people see these logos, they're not.
This looks to me like a 5-7 type of schedule, depending on how Walker Egat looks. Like I'm looking at like a 4-8, 5-7.
And that's the crazy. But when you look at this schedule on paper, it's a lot easier than if you actually get into it and say, who are these teams? Like independent of Duke, who are the teams that they're playing? That's a tough schedule, just in a way that and let's also be fair. This schedule could break in a way that is very favorable for Duke. Georgia Tech could look bad, could have a tough time putting together drives and points, losing their starter and their backup. UNC is UNC. Virginia could regress, and last year could have been their one shining moment. You could have a world where Clemson continues their downslide, and Wake Forest also had a one magic moment. But there's just a lot to go here. There's a wild card aspect to their schedule that I don't think is in anybody else's.
Yeah, and like a bunch of these games, like Duke can win. Like there's some toss-ups in there, but I would say like the only guaranteed wins are William and Mary and probably Boston College. I think everything else is a toss-up at best.
I agree, and that's my point with this Duke team in that this is a very intriguing schedule independent of Duke. But then when you throw in the factors for Duke, how good does Egat look in year one? Because we've seen some quarterbacks come in and be stunning successes in year one. We saw with Darian Mensah last year. But even with Darian, did it not take him a while to figure it out? Did it not? And I'm not, by a while, I don't mean like it took him forever and a day. But those first couple of games, he was a turnover machine. And so, you're asking yourself, how fast does Egat get up to speed? Because you could look at dropping those first 3 games potentially. And mind you, those first 3 are, you got a group of 5 team in there and the team that was at the bottom of the ACC in Stanford.
Yeah.
How do you really go forward from there?
Well, let's take a look at Miami's schedule. So the only weird thing about Miami's schedule is they play 3 Friday night games and a Thursday nighter. And their first 3 games are Friday, Thursday, Friday. But it is what it is. Miami opens up at Stanford on a Friday night, September 4th. Now, initially, Kenton, when I saw, man, they're making Miami go on the road to Stanford. That's how you treat the national runners-up. But then I got to tell you, getting that trip out of the way week 1, I don't have a problem with it, right?
Yep.
Because it's week 1, so it's not going to be a trap game. And you go out west at a time when your team is at its healthiest and, you're freshest. So you know what? If you're going to have to go out to Palo Alto, California for a game, week 1 is probably the best time to do that. Then Miami's got, so Stanford is on the road, FAMU at home, Wake Forest on the road, Central Michigan at home, Clemson on the road. That should be a good game. Then the bye week, then Florida State at home, rivalry game, Pittsburgh at home, North Carolina on the road. We get our crack at Belichick then. Pittsburgh at home. Oh, no, sorry. I jumped to the wrong schedule. My bad. So North Carolina on the road, Notre Dame on the road, Duke at home, as we talked about, that November 14th, and then Virginia Tech at home. That's a Friday night, and Boston College at home. So actually, I got to say, another thing I like about Miami's schedule is 3 straight home games to end the year, which means you got some road games jumbled into the earlier part, but 3 straight home games to end the year. Miami had 2 straight road games to end last year. I'd much rather have 3 straight home games.
Let me tell you something. Palo Alto ain't known for nothing but making engineers and good Asian food, okay? That they are not – that's not going to be a ruckus environment that Miami is walking into week 1. And, Donno, it's not only that the season will be in its infancy, your academic year will also be in that. I know that people like to act like these kids aren't going to school anymore and anything like that. They still have to. There's still academic standards that they have to meet. And even beyond that, the next game after it is FAMU. So you don't – this is not a game that you're going to look over and say, oh, man, we're going to look over Stanford because we got FAMU next. This is ideal for Miami. This schedule, the ACC schedule makers have smiled on Miami in a major way. And I know that some people will look at that and say, wait a minute, that Wake Forest team that you just talked about being an 8-win team, how is it nothing to Miami? Well, it's a very different set of expectations for Miami than Duke, number 1. 2, it's a different talent level. It just is. Duke winning an ACC championship is their ceiling for the most part. Don't get me wrong, that ceiling can get you into the playoff with the new format. Yeah. However, Miami it just didn't though. Yes, it didn't. It didn't because you can't lose to Tulane and get your doors blown off at home by Illinois and hope to make it. But this schedule for Miami shapes up in a way that the only games that you look at and you're like, I'm worried about that one, would probably be Clemson on the road, Notre Dame on the road. Yeah. And that's about it. Yeah, what other games do you look at with this schedule and you truly think, man, Locked On Canes, we're going to be a little antsy that week. It's going to be a little dicey that week.
The crazy thing about covering Miami is you just never know. Heading into the SMU game last season, you would have thought, hey, SMU's got a lot of injuries. Miami's way more talented. It seemed like it might be an easy game. It was. Now, heading into the Louisville game, which Miami also lost, I did have some concerns about that one, which were verified. But you never know. Miami usually stubs their toe when you least expect it. But, the expectation of having Darian Mensah likely a quarterback this year, and really the blessing Miami has of retaining their entire running back room, including Mark Fletcher Jr., Gerard Pringle, who got into the transfer portal for like 3 seconds and decided to stay at Miami, Marty Brown staying, even Jordan Lyle, who barely got on the field last year, is staying. So, defensive line, Miami obviously lost a couple of great ones, Reuben Bain and Akeem Mezdador, but the Damon Wilson addition from Mizzou was huge, and the Hurricanes have some talent there. So should be a good season, but like you said, at Clemson and at Notre Dame are the big ones that we have circled. What about let's take a look at Clemson's schedule, Kenton. They open up the season on the road in Baton Rouge against LSU, which they have spared no expense in fortifying their roster for the Lane Kiffin era. Sam Leavitt likely to be the starting quarterback there. They've added a ton of talent. Then you got to help me with that logo, Kenton. What is that? What is that Eagle logo? Week 2 for Clemson.
I believe that's Georgia Southern. I believe that's
is that Georgia Southern? Okay, I'll take your word. It probably is. It seems like a regional FCS team you will play. So Georgia Southern at home, followed by UNC at home, Cal on the road, Miami at home, bye week. Is that the ECU Pirate there for 10-17?
10-17. No, that's the Charleston Southern.
That's
Buccaneer.
the Charleston Southern. I got my Buccaneers mixed up.
Yeah.
Right. These FCS logos get me every time, man. The one that I'm very proud that I knew on somebody else's schedule. Like somebody's got UC Davis. Yeah, SMU has UC Davis on their schedule, and when I saw that one, I'm like, yes, I know that one. But,
okay. Is that week 2? Is that week 2?
Yeah, that's UC Davis.
Okay.
I remember because it looks like the Cincinnati Reds
gotcha.
C. Yeah, I always remember that one.
Look at us being sickos knowing ball that well. Look at us.
I feel like I've already failed on a couple of logos, though. I knew the UC Davis one, which I'm very proud of, clearly. So after that, Clemson will play home against Virginia Tech, Florida State, and Syracuse on the road in back-to-back weeks, home against Georgia Tech. Like you said, we have no idea what Georgia Tech is going to look like this year. At Duke and home against South Carolina for rivalry week. So I got to tell you, Kenton, Clemson's always going to field a good football team, even though they've been down, relatively speaking, the last couple of years. This looks like a really tough schedule to me.
Donno, we will know exactly what this team is. Their season will be a lost cause, or they will be on track to get everything they want by their first bye week.
Yeah,
I am guaranteeing you right now, by 10-10, we will know. If you are competitive against LSU, we will know you are a serious program. However, if you get your doors blown off, people talking about Leavitt as the big addition. I think Jordan Seaton was probably their best addition out of the portal. I mean, that young man was phenomenal for Colorado. And so, now that he's going to a school where he's probably going to be a lot closer to winning a championship, I think the rest of the nation's going to know exactly how good the young man is. But after that point, here's the thing, Donald. There's a world where they come out of that 3-2, but we know their season's over. You get me? You get, because you can walk out of that. If LSU blows your doors off, if Miami blows your doors off, it's over. It's over. Yeah. There's not a world where anybody takes Clemson serious, even if you rattle off a string of wins against an FCS team in Charleston Southern, a Virginia Tech team with a first-year James Franklin, a Florida State team that we know has a lame duck coach, a Syracuse team that is now going through drama over whether or not they're signing a 5'8" rapper in 2C, Georgia Tech with no quarterback, Duke with Egat, and a South Carolina team that we're all looking at Beamer saying, are you really the guy? Are you, Denoris Sellers, is he actually the goods? So ultimately, by that first bye week, we will know almost everything we need to know about this team.
I want to take a look here at Virginia, at NC State and at Florida State. So your NC State Wolfpack, you guys open up the season in Brazil against Virginia. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this one against Virginia, this one is a conference game, correct?
Correct. It is not only a conference game, but this also benefits NC State because it is a conference road game.
Oh, so it counts as your road game when it's, I know down in Rio they love the Wolfpack, so you guys are going to have the crowd.
Well, I would absolutely love for that to be true. I was
I have
unaware
no
of
idea.
this. I was just about to say I was unaware of this night before.
I have no clue.
But
I have no clue.
Here's the beauty of this schedule. If you're NC State, not only does that count as an away game, but also you played the Dirty Foot Club, also known as UNC, in Raleigh last year. So that's one of your conference away games as well. Yeah. Which means what, Donno? How many true conference road games does NC State have this year outside of the 30-minute perimeter of the triangle? How many true conference road games do they have?
I'm going to say, I don't know, 2?
Just one. Stanford.
Just one? Oh,
I'm sorry. You're right. 2.
Yeah,
Stanford
Florida State.
And Florida State. You're right.
Yeah.
Stanford and Florida State. But you look at those two teams, Stanford, new coach, Florida State, lame duck coach.
Yeah.
I feel great about that. I feel great about that. Like you're not looking at teams who have established themselves as the new greatness. And this is why I said NC State season, when people ask me, will they be good, Kenton? What are you seeing 9-10 wins? Will we end up in Charlotte? I keep trying to tell everybody this team will be fun. They'll put up points. I know for a fact they will score some points because they have a schedule that's conducive to that, right? Even if you look at Vanderbilt as a tough game in Nashville, Vanderbilt's defense was very pliable last year. And it just so happened that Diego Pavia and company were bailing them out a lot. Well, yeah, there's no more feisty 5'9" guy. He's gone.
Yeah, we found out today he's 5'9".
Stop it, Donno. We found out at the Heisman ceremony.
I know, but it's so shameless that Vanderbilt had him listed at 6 foot on their website. It's shameless. That's 3 inches. I can understand giving a guy an inch. You can't give him 3.
Let me tell you something. My homegirls that are on Hinge and all that would tell me that's not even a Hinge 6 foot. You understand?
Yeah.
Like that's not even I'm gonna lie about my height a little bit 6 foot. So this is a schedule that for NC State, I'm not gonna put any labels on it. I'm not gonna put any expectations on them. All I'm gonna say is should be a fun season. This is a favorable schedule, but a lot like Miami is known for stubbing their toe once or twice. NC State is known for stepping on Legos all throughout the living room. Okay,
that hurts.
Yeah, man. They're known for you saying, "Oh, this is going to be the year. We're a dark horse this year," and then you look up like, "Wait, are we 500 in the conference?" So I'm not going to put no big hopes into it.
All right, Florida State schedule. I pulled this one up separately because there's a couple logos on there that really made me sweat. So I've got it here written out for me. They open up at home against New Mexico State, which unfortunately. Having a game like that to open your season, it wastes the fact that Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell are always at their best week 1. And you waste it on New Mexico State. Like, you think of Alabama had no answer for the week 1 Malzahn last year. And there was some chatter about Florida State maybe taking on Miami week 1. And Florida State fans were like, hey, if there's a time to do it, it might as well be week 1. But no, they wasted. It's week 0. Against New Mexico State. Then the true week 1 is against SMU. And then at Alabama. I know Bama is going to be seeking revenge for last year. Yeah. Home against Central Arkansas. That was the logo that was making me sweat. And home against Virginia, followed by 2 straight road games. This will be tough. At Louisville, then at Miami, then home against Clemson. That is a 3-week stretch, man. Then at Boston College, at Pittsburgh, who, of course, had a pretty good season this year. Then home against your NC State Wolfpack, and then home against the Florida Gators, which has been a mid-off for the past few years. We'll see what it is this year.
Oh, this year is not only going to be a mid-off, it's going to be a new coach off because Norvell ain't making it. Norvell ain't making it. I have a very strong prediction. Something is telling me that Halloween will be very spooky for the Norvell household. Something. I'm doing my best clairvoyance. I'm doing my best Miss Cleo impression here. Something is telling me that on October 31st, Norvell will pretend for Halloween he will be an employed coach because he will not be that in the real world. Something is telling me that about this schedule. I mean, if I'm Florida State fans, I'm excited because I'm going to get my new coach finally. That's the silver lining of this schedule for Florida State. It's a little bit of a gauntlet at certain stretches because even though we're talking about what is Virginia going to be, what is Florida State going to be? We've seen Florida State put on a 2-win team last year. 2 years ago. And then last year, they weren't all that much better, and their quarterback's gone. So, it's –
Ashton Daniels now is their quarterback.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Ashton Daniels from Stanford, Ashton Daniels?
Yeah, he's been around the block. He was back up at Auburn last year after leaving Stanford. Now he's the man in Tallahassee.
That stinks. That stunk. Oh, my Lordy. Hey, Florida State fans, it'll all be over soon. It'll all be over soon. Y'all will get y'all new coach. Y'all will get everything you want. But this, yuck.
Well, when we come back, we'll explain why the ACC Championship game will be out of prime time for the first time. And why does Kenton Gibbs keep stealing players from my Miami Hurricanes roster? You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Folks, this is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. You know who moved the game forward this week? SMU basketball senior guard B.J. Edwards, named ACC Men's Basketball Player of the Week, averaged 21.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3.5 steals in big wins over Wake Forest and Florida State this past week. Shot 58% from the field, 50% from three-point range, 9 of 12 from the free throw line. He had a great week, did B.J. Edwards, and he works very hard off the court as well. So, folks, Mazda is moving the game forward, reminding us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving that extra fire, that grit, and the I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen. Make sure for your next listen, you check out our other shows. I host Locked On Canes. Kenton co-hosts Locked On Wolfpack. All right, Kenton, so forgive me if I left anyone out, but over the past week or two, NC State has signed former Miami receiver Chance Robinson, who super talented. His just injuries have gotten in his way. He's got to stay healthy. Another wide receiver, JoJo Trader, who just signed today, who's a former high school teammate of C.J. Bailey. So that one makes a ton of sense there. JoJo had kind of a rough year this year at Miami, but I'll tell you, that man blocks his behind off at receiver. He's just got to find more stability as a pass catcher. And my personal favorite, linebacker Raul Popo Aguirre, who his younger brother is on the team already. So this one fits like a glove. And Kenton, I'm telling you, Popo is going to become an instant leader in that locker room. He is made of the right stuff. He's a tremendous, relentless linebacker, but he's an even better person. So I think with this one, Dave Doran hits a home run to get a guy who's really going to help enhance that culture there in Raleigh.
Yeah, Dave Doran was quoting Walter White here. He was probably talking to Mrs. Doran, and she said, what, you think, he said, you think I'm the one who worries about tampering? Somebody knocks on the portal and they come get my correct. No, I am the one who knocks. And he has been the one who has knocked on Miami. But even beyond Miami, he must have been watching the U documentary. He must have been watching it because he's been, even outside the Miami players, he's recruited the state of Miami extremely hard in the portal. Even outside of the guys that you mentioned, I want to talk about another guy that he got out of the portal by the name of Davion Goss, who is also from the Miami area, former teammate of, now current teammate of C.J. Bailey. So, it's not just Miami. It's not just Miami. It's anybody that's from Miami. I'm sure Doran probably put in the call to Jeremiah Smith. Hey, man, we build good things down here in Raleigh. If you want it.
Why not? It doesn't hurt to make the call.
He's reunited, and it feels so good. You and CJ could be good again. That's probably what happened. But in all seriousness, Miami is a team that has a ton of talent. And obviously, when you have that much talent, this is the new era of the NCAA. You can't stockpile talent like you once did.
Right.
Guys are naturally going to fall off the bandwagon. And NC State was right there like the cleanup woman to go ahead and take them on home.
Yeah, and overall, like Miami's roster retention was really good. Especially being able to keep their running back room together was tremendous. They were able to keep most of their receiver room together, really, with the exceptions of the guys that are going to NC State. But the one that hurt me was Popo. That was. Popo was out of all the names who have transferred out of Miami, that's the one that I most wished Miami would have kept there. So the other thing, Kenton, going on in the ACC is, and I think this is a smart decision, okay? The ACC Championship game has always been in prime time on, the first Saturday in December, which I think is December 5th this year. So it's always been an 8 p.m. game, but they're moving it to noon this coming year. And it's strategic reasons. I'm sure ESPN pushed for this because, in recent years, they've gone head-to-head against the Big Ten championship game. That one's tough to beat, especially when it's, Duke versus Virginia in the ACC Championship. It's going to be tough to beat the Big Ten Championship game. The Big 12 game is played now on Fridays. So now you're going to do the ACC Championship game at noon, then the SEC Championship, I think, in the afternoon, followed by the Big Ten at night. So it's actually probably the best thing, like, for overall viewership. I don't mind a noon game. I mean, if Stanford or Cal ever finds their way into the ACC Championship, that may not fit them too well with a 9 a.m. start for their body clocks, but I'm okay with a noon game because I'm not going to pretend that we expect the ACC Championship game to be able to compete year in and year out going head-to-head against the Big Ten. I'm not going to pretend that's the case.
Yeah, especially with what happened last year, right? As much as I'm a big proponent of line it up and whoever gets there, we also must face the stark realities of money is driving everything right now in college football. And what drives money out of where teams are and what times teams play? Viewership. And let's just be honest. Duke versus Virginia is the type of viewership that will get you a noon slot. And that's no disrespect to those two teams. Those are two basketball schools. That's just what it is. Those are two schools that are not known to have the size or even the passion out of their fan bases that many other schools in the ACC do. And this is no disrespect to them, because when we lined it up, guess who turned out to be the two teams that by tie breaks and by overall record were the teams that were in? Those two. Yeah. So it's incumbent upon the rest of the conference. It was on Clemson and Florida State. It was on NC State. It was on Miami. It was on us. It was on all those teams to make it happen. They didn't. The teams that were there. Obviously, the result of it is now being pushed to that new window.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for you today. Make sure you check out Locked On Wolfpack with Kenton Gibbs and follow him on X at TGIF_Kenton. Follow me at Alex Donno and on Locked On Canes. We mentioned it seems likely that a settlement is coming soon with Duke and Darian Mensah. Whenever that happens, probably this week, we're going to break it down. In fact, if the settlement doesn't happen this week, the hearing will happen on Thursday. So we'll have an update for you on that later on in the week. And thank you so much to the Everydayers. Make sure you join the Everydayer Club, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.